Some team apparently called the Mariners about Luis Castillo last week. We'll talk about that more coming up here on Mailbag Monday. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, April 14th, 2025. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the promo code Locked On MLB, that's LOCKEDON MLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. So we're going to open up the mailbag and answer some of your Mariners questions like we do here every Monday, starting with this question from Jeff. What's your opinion on the Bob Nightingale story of trade rumors? Luis Castillo for an infielder? So yeah, if you missed it, Bob Nightingale put out an article yesterday morning talking about the Mariners and the injuries that they've suffered over the last week to Victor Robles and Ryan Bliss. And because of those injuries, apparently a mystery team reached out last week to the Mariners asking for Luis Castillo and offering up a young infielder. So we don't know who that is or who the team is, of course. Apparently, according to Nightingale, it was a very quick no from the Mariners, and that does not come as a surprise whatsoever. Because I'm going to assume here that at best, this was a fair value offer from that team to the Mariners for Castillo. And look, we've seen what's happened every time that fifth spot in the rotation has come up. Now you're asking the Mariners to open up another one of those spots while George Kirby still recovers. We still don't know exactly when he's going to make it back. Better be a damn good player that you're offering. And again, I'm going to assume that it wasn't. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to assume this is a team looking to take advantage of the Mariners and be like, oh, you guys are 4-8. You just lost your second baseman, third baseman, disaster, blah, blah, blah. Your season's basically over. You might want to do something. And the Mariners chuckled and heartily said, it's 12 games, dude. Like, we're not panicking about this. And also, we don't have a Luis Castillo placement on hand. We don't even have a George Kirby replacement, as it turns out, on hand. At least not one we're willing to use for any major league experience whatsoever. But yeah, so it's one of those things, like, we can speculate which team it was and probably create a pretty accurate list, because we're talking about a team that's almost certainly willing to take on all of Luis Castillo's contract, and Castillo's been paid once, so it's still basically all of his contract at this stage. Also has a need in the rotation, also would be willing to part with an infielder, a young infielder or whatever. So yeah, I think we could speculate, and I think it'd be the usual suspects, the Dodgers being one of them. I do think this feels kind of like a Mets type of move. The Mets have already had injuries in the rotation, and it's already a shaky unit as is. And my guess is they offered Acuna or Beatty.
It'd be so disrespectful if it was Beatty, especially.
And I assure you, the Mariners felt the same way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I imagine that was a pretty brief phone call, and the Mariners maybe not even respectfully declined, and that was that. So it's an early season thing. The team looking to take advantage of another one, hoping that they're going to panic buy. And the Mariners, they're not going to do that. For all we can say about this front office, they really don't panic, make panic moves. They're sometimes patient to a fault. And so they weren't going to panic after just 12 games. So yeah, this is a team looking to take advantage of the Seattle Mariners, and the Seattle Mariners said, no, we're not that desperate. We're not that stupid. So again, you speculate who you think it is in the comments. I kind of lean to it being the Mets would be my guess.
Yeah, the Mets, maybe the Red Sox with like Grissom or Rafaela or someone like that.
Yeah.
It could be anyone, though. I mean, imagine if it was the Phillies trying to offer Alec Boehm, who has a negative 0.7 F4 right now, is literally the worst qualified hitter in baseball. They're like, now we're willing to trade you Boehm, but you still have to give us Luis Castillo for him.
Right. And again, the Mariners, even if they thought, like, it would have had to have been such like an amazing player for Seattle to trade Luis Castillo this early in the year with the state of their pitching staff right now. It would have had to have been I imagine a star or near like star type of infielder to get the Mariners' attention whatsoever. And obviously, a team's not going to offer that in April. This is probably nothing burger. And like I said, it's probably just a team checking in, seeing if they could maybe take advantage of Seattle and see if they were panicking, and they're not. So, I don't think there's much to this at all.
Yeah, for the record, I don't actually think it was the Phillies, but it would be funny if Dombrowski actually had the gall to do that.
I'd still guess the Mets.
Yeah. The more interesting thing that came out of the Nightingale report was that the Mariners are out on the market looking for help. So we'll see if they actually find something there. But we've seen some kind of like minor trades here and there over the course of the last couple of weeks. So maybe they're able to find something on the fringes, but I don't think that they're going to be able to make any sort of like impactful trade for a while.
Yeah, the Luis Arraez trade is the earliest impact trade I can remember happening, once the regular season got started. And even that, we're still about 3 weeks away from when that trade was made. So
yeah, and it's like I don't envision the Braves panicking enough to be willing to start selling off pieces.
I'll see how these.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, the Twins not yet. There's just really no reason to make a big trade this early in the year for anybody.
Yeah, and then White Sox, Rockies, those teams, like it's the same conversation that we had in the offseason, so nothing's changed on that front. Maybe the Pirates, but yeah,
probably not.
Like, would the Pirates be willing to trade like Connor Falefa? That wouldn't necessarily be an impactful move, but that would be a name that you've heard of. Next question here from SBR. SBR wants to know, with Troy Taylor back for this road trip and Brash not too far behind, is Thornton the odd man out? Casey Lawrence, who do you guys think will be to come abound when they return? So I assume this was already asked before the move that happened today. Troy Taylor was officially added to the 26-man roster ahead of the road trip. Casey Lawrence got DFA'd to make room for him. But I still wanted to answer this question because the Mariners are going to have another decision to make this weekend when that fifth spot in the rotation comes back up. They decided to skip that start this turn through the rotation. So everyone's gotten bumped up a day for the Reds series, but either Friday or Saturday against the Blue Jays, they're going to have someone start because Luis F. Castillo was sent down a few days ago. I would assume that it's probably just Casey Legumina who was called up for Castillo. Have we seen him pitch yet? I don't think we have. Yeah. So that seems to be the obvious move there, but I don't think that it's going to be Thornton, to answer your question. I mean, they just threw him out there in another high leverage inning yesterday.
No, I think you could argue that it should be. Trent Thornton,
absolutely.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think he's even under consideration. Could it be Gregory Santos, who still doesn't have a strikeout in 7 games and does have a minor league option?
It could be. But Legumina also has an option. I'm a little worried it might be Colin Snyder, because they seem to not want to use him at all. And you should be reversing the role of Snyder and Thornton, if anything. So, but yeah, it's either going to be Santos or Legumina. I would guess it's going to be Legumina. That would be my hunch, because I don't think Santos is throwing the ball terribly. He's just not generating a lot of whiffs. And, he's never been a huge strikeout guy, but he's certainly been better than zero. So, there might be something they want to tweak there. And we need to remember Santos has barely been on the mound since his injury. So maybe there is a little something they want to work on without the pressure of getting big league hitters out. So I could see Santos being sent down. My guess is it would probably be Legumina. If I had to pick somebody that I would send down or I would DFA, I would probably pick Thornton. To be honest, I just trust him the least out of everybody out there. But the Mariners are going to do that. Dan Wilson treats Thornton like Jerry Dipoto treated Andrew Romine. So just untouchable for some unknown reason. And again, it's not like Thornton doesn't have a role in a big league bullpen. It's not like he's not a big league pitcher. It's just he's being misused right now. And because he's being misused, the warts that are obviously always been there are being exaggerated. And so no disrespect to Trent, but he's the guy I'd probably trust the least right now. And considering that, 3 weeks ago, we were like, how on earth are you going to justify Carlos Vargas making this roster? And now we're not even discussing him being the guy who's might lose his job. Speaks volumes not only about how well Vargas has thrown the ball, but how poorly other guys in this Mariners bullpen have thrown the ball. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Carlos Vargas has shut me the hell up. Say that.
And Gino is really bad right now. So you do have to wonder who won that trade. Fair to ask?
No, it's not.
No. It's still the worst trade Jerry's ever made. Fine. He's been very good and he can fill a couple different roles for the Mariners, and he has so far. My guess is they'll just play it safe and it'll be Legumina, which kind of stinks. But this is the I guess the good thing about having a deep bullpen, even though the Mariners really don't. It's the illusion of having a deep bullpen. But Legumina probably gets sent back down, and I think we know it's probably going to be him because he wasn't used in either of the last two games, including in a 9-1 blowout. They still went to Bizzardo and Santos in a 9-1 game instead of Legumina. So I think that might tell us a little something.
Yeah. And also Matt Brash might be back relatively soon. He had his first AAA appearance yesterday. So maybe by the next homestand.
I bet we see him sometime in the next homestand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming there are no setbacks, of course.
Yeah, that gives him like 11 more days until the next homestand.
Yep. He can be in the minors for 30 days as a pitcher. Yep. So they don't have to call him up until, May 10th, give or take.
Yeah.
I imagine they're going to rest him for a couple of days and he'll throw him out there. And then they'll probably ask him to pitch with one full day rest. And then at that point, if he can do that a couple times in a row, then they probably feel pretty confident that he's ready to go. But they'll have to make another move there. You're just running out of arms. At some point, you're going to have to DFA somebody.
Yeah. Barring injury at that point, then we have to have more of a discussion about, Snyder or Santos or Thornton, Bizzardo, one of those guys. Yeah. Bizzardo. Yeah. So we'll see.
Maybe Vargas by that point, but right now, no.
Yeah. Plenty of time for things to kind of naturally shake out before we get there. So we'll see. All right. We are going to answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk or on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday. Let's get back into your questions. Jack wants to know, Ben Williamson has been called up. How does he produce enough offensively in order to stay with the big league club? Is that the plan, or is it just short term until the Mariners find a replacement?
I think it might honestly depend on whether or not it's a short term thing or whether or not it's just the way it's going to be. Probably depends on Williamson. I mean, if he's good, then the Mariners are probably going to focus more on second base, looking for a solution there, or maybe even first base. I hope, my hope is that the Mariners did not call up Ben Williamson to only platoon him and only have him start against lefties. You have like 4 platoons if that's the case right now, and that's 3 too many. But he didn't start yesterday, and so that's interesting at the very least. That you'd call.
I guess they just wanted to get him acclimated.
I guess, but they don't typically do that. Usually they get guys in games ASAP, but who knows? We'll see. He's almost certainly going to make his debut on Tuesday. Congratulations. You may be facing a lefty, but it's a really good one. So we'll see what happens there. But my hunch is that this is more of a I think the Mariners would like it to be more of a short-term thing. Well, they probably would like it to be, the solution for the rest of the year at third base. But
Sure.
I think this is like, hey, let's at least get some value out of third while we see what our long-term options are, or rather our short-term options are. Like, is there a guy we can go get that we could plug in at third and get reasonable production from while Williamson goes back to the minors and kind of continues to work, because there's still work to do here. There's not a lot of power in Ben Williamson. He's not really a safe bet to hit for a lot of average at the big league level, but he should make enough contact, and he's going to play really good defense, and he'll give you value that way. So I think this is just the Mariners being like, look, we have to get something out of third base. And if we can't get offense out of that position, then we need to at least get defense like they did last year with Josh Rojas. And the Mariners third base situation, while frustrating last year, was a productive one. Yeah. And I think that's just kind of the same idea with Williamson right now.
Yeah, it was the fifth most valuable third base situation in all of baseball last year by F4, which is saying a lot about the state of third base in Major League Baseball, really. I think it says more about that than anything else. But
also says that the F4 formula factors in defense a little too heavily.
Yeah. F4 is not a perfect stat. Far from it. So you're just kind of looking to stabilize the defense there, because just more hasn't been the answer there, and Polo probably just can't do it. So, yeah. As far as like offensively for Williamson, like we know that it's not going to be an ideal third base offensive profile. No. He's not going to hit for really any power, and if he does hit for some power, it's going to be more doubles than over the wall power. Hopefully you can at least hit for a little bit of average, so that he's just not a complete black hole there.
Can you hit 230 with like a 300 on base and play plus defense? Can Ben Williamson do that for you right now? Yeah. If he can, that's probably a 2.5 win player, just right there. And that's not counting Williamson's actually a pretty good base runner as well. He can steal a bag here and there, and he cuts the bases pretty well. So yeah, excited to see Williamson. I think he's a little bit overhyped by the fan base, just based on the reaction to him getting called up that I saw. I think he's going to be a solid contributor at the big league level. I don't see an everyday player, and I don't think he's the type of guy who just comes up to the big leagues and performs right away. I think it's going to take him a couple cracks to really figure out big league pitching. And again, he's barely played above AA. So there's going to be some growing pains here, but I do think the defense will translate very well. And right now you'll take what you can get from the third base position.
Next question from Desmond. Who is an ideal third base trade target for the Mariners? I don't think there is one. Third base is just bad around baseball right now. It really is. There's just not that many options, and the teams that are secure at third base, for the most part, they're contenders. So they're not going to be trading that guy. And if they are willing to trade that guy, or if there is a team that isn't competing but they have a really good third base option, they're going to charge a hell of a premium on that. Which depending on what that actually is, the Mariners should still be willing to pay.
Sure. Depends on the player.
But in general, just quickly, like looking down the list, I don't see one. I don't see an ideal target for them at third base.
Well, I mean, especially if we're talking about like a guy that they could acquire relatively soon.
Yeah.
Like, not only is there a lack of good third basemen out there, but there are a lack of teams that would even consider selling a player that you would feel comfortable starting at third base.
Yeah.
This early in the year. So it's probably still somebody like Willie Castro, who we talked about, and the Twins are struggling right now, but they're not going to punt the season in the middle of April. They're probably not going to be willing to punt their season until middle of June at the earliest.
Yeah.
So there's a lack of third.
And Castro, even then, is not like, he's not an ideal third baseman.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's probably the best player you could somewhat realistically acquire.
Yeah,
is exactly. That type of guy. Like, if you're gonna fix third base, you're probably gonna have to go acquire somebody who doesn't play third base every day, and then ask him to play third base every day.
Yeah,
it's just such a thin position.
Kind of like what the Yankees did with Jazz last year,
right? Or what the Mariners did with Josh Rojas, except for he went from third to second, like kind of the inverse of that. So what they did with Abraham Toro. So sometimes you can be a little creative here. But yeah, so I think if you're looking for who, like, if you're asking me like who could be the Mariners starting third baseman on August 1st, because I think that's the day after the trade deadline, this year, then I would tell you, like, well, go look at the list of shortstops and second baseman before you look at the list of third baseman, because there's just not that many. And again, if you're talking about right now, there's not a third baseman out there who's available right this second that you could go get that you would feel significantly better starting at third base than Ben Williamson right now. It's too early for that type of thing.
Yeah.
And even when it's not too early, now we're talking about a lack of options at that thing.
Yeah.
Like, can you go get Curtis Mead? Sure, but you're hoping he hits, and he's not going to play great defense out there. And I mean, get Eggy Rosario maybe, but again, same thing, right? Like, you're not really sure what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Neither of those guys are significantly more likely to be a valuable big leaguer right now than Ben Williamson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, we'll empty out the mailbag in just a moment, but first, a reminder: this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It's time to wrap up Mailbag Monday with a couple more questions. BT wants to know, is Miles Mastrobony for real? Does the data back up his results, or is he getting lucky? He's not getting lucky. He's leading the team right now in hard hit rate. He's had 10 hard hit balls in the last 4 games. And right now, considering what the infield situation is for the Mariners, you got to ride the hot hand. So, yeah. Do I think this is going to last forever? No. Given what he's been leading up to this point, don't think that at all. Until he proves otherwise. I mean, there's always the possibility that he is like 2023 Travis Jankowski, right? He's just like one of those 1-year revelations that just, he kind of helps you. He gives you 1 to 2 wins of production. Cool. Great. Solid role player. Right. But yeah, right now, as far as things are going, like, it's been solid. The process has been really good. He's also given you a really good plate appearance. Most of the time that he's gone up there, he's only struck out twice. He's walked a few times. He's had some big moments late in games. And again, he's stinging the ball right now. So and until that diminishes, you should play him with some regularity.
Sure.
But odds are what he's been leading up to this point, that's going to run out. Brian wants to know, how long is the leash for JP? Seems like he's going down the France route of one really strong year and then decline to the point he's just about unplayable.
JP's leash is this year.
Yeah. I also wouldn't say that JP's been unplayable this year. He hasn't been good at the plate, but at least he's walking and he's playing solid defense. Mm-hmm. He's giving you some production. He hasn't been a complete nothing.
Yeah, but the answer is at the very least, at the earliest, he has until like the trade deadline. Like, if he's bad, could the Mariners go get a shortstop and move JP to either second or kind of a bench role? Sure, yeah, that's possible, although unlikely. But yeah, I think he has the whole year, because I don't think they're going to bring Cole Young up and supplant JP Crawford with Cole Young. I don't think that's going to happen. Not when they already have a hole at second base and third base. Like, they're not going to do that. So, like you said, he's playing enough defense. He's walking enough that he's still providing some value to the club. Does he need to hit more? Yes. Does he need to do much more than have a 350 on base and play, solid defense at shortstop to be worthy of being the everyday guy? No, not really. I mean, it'd be great if he was hitting like 230 with the 15% walk rate instead of a 22% walk rate to really inflate his numbers. But no, I mean, JP Crawford is still playable. And unlike Ty France, he gives you something. He's a good base runner, not a base stealer, but he's a good base runner. He is at least an average shortstop defensively. I would say probably slightly above average is where I would put JP's defensive prowess at the position. He still draws a walk. He still gives you a good at bat. And he still does have some pull power. He just hasn't tapped into it yet. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But the absolute earliest I can see JP Crawford either being benched or moved off a shortstop entirely would be the trade deadline if the Mariners could find somebody who was obviously better than JP Crawford. And I don't see that happening. So I think he's got the whole year. And then this winter, I could absolutely see them moving on from JP and maybe even trying to trade him. But I don't see anybody coming out externally or internally to bump JP off of his spot with any significant relevance.
Yeah, the only possibility there is if Cole Young pops, and even then you might need him at second base. So,
yep, exactly.
Yeah. So
because at that point, then it's not JP versus Cole Young. At that point, it becomes JP versus Dylan Moore as an everyday player, JP versus Miles Mastrobony as an everyday player. Like
maybe Ben Williamson.
Yeah, maybe. So at that point, like, no, you'd rather have Cole Young and JP Crawford than Cole Young and Dylan Moore, Cole Young and Miles Mastrobony. So yeah, I think he's got the whole year.
Yeah, I think JP is going to be around here unless the Mariners crater. Maybe he has some trade value at the deadline. And they move him then. But I would suspect that I would say that odds are by the end of the season, JP Crawford's still a Mariner. Now, is he still a Mariner by opening day next year? I'd put those odds pretty low. All right. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Tiding Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Tiding Gonzalez, Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.